It's a Tuesday evening. Something happened today. At work, in a conversation, in a text exchange that ended too abruptly. Nothing catastrophic, just one of those small, sharp things that lands somewhere tender. And instead of calling someone, instead of saying anything at all, you went quiet. You made dinner. You scrolled for a while. You said, "I'm fine," when someone asked. And now it's late, and you're sitting with it alone, and the feeling has gotten bigger in the silence instead of smaller. And some part of you knows that if someone who loved you asked the right question in the right tone right now, you would cry. But you also know you would never volunteer that. You would never just say, "I'm hurting. I need something. Can you just stay for a minute?" You don't know exactly when you stop being able to do that. I came across something recently that made me stop completely because it describes something I had never seen named before. Maybe you never could. Maybe the ability was never fully there to begin with, replaced very early by something that felt safer, by the knowledge that pain shared is pain that can be used against you, or pain that burdens other people, or pain that makes you too much. So you learn to carry it alone, to process in private, to present a surface that gives nothing away while everything underneath is still very much happening. And here is the part that is quietly, specifically painful. The silence works. You get through the day. Nobody worries, nobody pries. You look composed. You look like someone who has it together. And then you get home, or you get in the car, or you wake up at 3 in the morning and the thing you didn't say is still there. Patient, waiting, taking up all the space you didn't give it anywhere else. You are not closed off. You are not cold. You are someone who learned that speaking up had consequences. And your silence is not a wall. It is a scar. Psychologists call this avoidant attachment, a way of relating to people and to your own emotions that developed when expressing need or pain was met consistently with something that made things worse. Maybe dismissal. Maybe someone getting upset and making your pain about them. Maybe just the quiet, reliable lesson that your feelings were inconvenient, that the safest version of you was the one who didn't need anything. Your nervous system learns something very specific. Vulnerability is dangerous. Not in a dramatic way, in a slow, accumulated way. Every time you tried to speak and something went wrong, every time you were told you were too sensitive, or you watched your pain make someone uncomfortable, or you needed something, and the need went unanswered, your nervous system filed that information. And it built a response. When hurting, go inward. When struggling, go quiet. When in pain, become the version of yourself that needs the least. Research shows that people with avoidant attachment patterns don't feel their emotions less. They often feel them more intensely than people who process openly. The difference is that they have learned to suppress the outward expression so completely that even they sometimes lose track of what they are carrying. Like a river that has been dammed, the water doesn't disappear. It just builds up somewhere you can't see. There is also something called emotional neglect. Not necessarily the absence of love, but the absence of a space where your emotional experience was welcomed, where someone asked how you were and waited for the real answer, where falling apart didn't create a problem. When that space was missing, you did what any intelligent child does. You stopped expecting it, you stopped reaching, you internalized the pain and got very good at looking fine. Rumi wrote, "The quieter you become, the more you are able to hear." But there is a kind of quiet that is not peace. It is the quiet of someone who has learned that their voice doesn't change anything. And that quiet is one of the loneliest places a person can live. You feel it at work, where something unfair happens and you say nothing. Not because you don't feel it, but because speaking up has never reliably made things better. You feel it in your relationships, where you need something but cannot find the words, or find the words and cannot find the moment, or find both and still say nothing, because some old part of you believes the need will cost you more than the silence. You feel it at night, when everything you didn't process during the day comes looking for you, not gently. The exhaustion of this is real. Carrying your pain privately is labor. Maintaining the surface is labor. Being the person who seems fine when you are not fine, every single day, in every room, with everyone who asks, is one of the most tiring things a human being can do, and almost nobody sees it. There is a grief inside your silence. The grief of all the moments you needed to be held and held yourself instead. The grief of a voice that learned to go quiet before it ever really got loud. This is the part that most psychology channels completely skip. The person who goes silent when they are hurting becomes a very specific kind of adult. You might find yourself saying, "I'm fine," before you have even checked whether you are. The words come automatically, A reflex, not a reflection. You might find that when someone finally creates the right space for you to speak, you go blank. Not because there is nothing there, because there is so much that you don't know where to start. And starting has always felt like opening something you might not be able to close. You might find that you express your pain sideways, in irritability, in withdrawal, in getting very busy with things that don't matter. Because the direct route is one your nervous system has never trusted. You might find that you pull away from the people closest to you exactly when you need them most, not to punish them. Because closeness when you are hurting feels like exposure, and exposure, somewhere in your body, still feels like risk. You might find that you are far better at holding space for other people's pain than you are at occupying space for your own. You know how to listen. You know how to sit with someone. You just cannot quite let someone do that for you. You might find that you have a significant emotional life that almost nobody in your world has access to. That there is a version of you, the real one, the tender one, the one that is sometimes genuinely overwhelmed, that lives almost entirely in private. None of this is who you are. It is what you learned. Healing for you begins with something that sounds impossibly simple. Letting one person see one true thing about how you are doing. Not everything, just one thing. To one person who has shown you, through consistency and gentleness, that they can hold it. Your nervous system needs evidence that speaking is safe. You build that evidence one small, true moment at a time. Learning to identify safe people is part of this. Not people who never react, but people whose reactions don't punish you for having feelings. People who can hear that you are struggling without making your struggle about them. People who ask how you are and mean it. They exist. Your history may have made them hard to find, or hard to trust, but they exist. Nervous system regulation is part of this too. When you feel the impulse to go quiet and inward, pausing, just briefly, to ask, what am I actually feeling right now? Not to fix it, not to share it, just to name it to yourself. Because the first step in letting anything out is knowing what it is. Your body already knows. You are just learning to listen. And therapy, honest, unhurried, this is for me therapy, is where you practice the most frightening and most necessary thing. Saying the true thing out loud to someone who will not flinch. For someone whose voice has been quiet for a long time, that room is not indulgent. It is where you remember what your voice sounds like when it tells the truth. Seneca wrote, "It is not that I am brave, it is that I know what is worth fearing and what is not." Your pain is not worth fearing, it is worth knowing. And the people who deserve you, the real, unguarded, occasionally hurting you, are not going to leave when they see it. That is not a guarantee your history gave you, but it is one you are allowed to go looking for. The goal is not to be fixed. It is to become whole. You are not closed off. You are not too private or too guarded or too damaged to connect. You are someone who learned that silence was the safest place for your pain. And now you are learning something new. Slowly, carefully, in whatever small ways feel possible. That there might be safer places still. Places that involve another person. Places where you don't have to hold it alone. More of that is coming. Because you deserve to be understood. Not just the composed version. All of you.